Hello, everybody. My name is AnonymousAutumn, and today we have the third episode of Idiotic Insight. Uh, Again, it's me and ForeverAzrael, but today we also have a special guest, Mr. Luton, who is a pretty well-known pixel anime producer, posts on the channel often. And today our topic is the close quarters maps that will be introduced, I believe, in June. And the topic at hand is, do they belong in Battlefield? So, Luton, why don't you start off with some of your thoughts?
Well, I really don't have any major issue with them, and I've seen a lot of negativity towards it, but a lot of people liking it as well, and a lot of people comparing it, saying, you know, oh, they're just trying to turn it into COD. But I really, honestly don't see what the problem is. We already have Team Deathmatch in the game, and, you know, basically this is just going to be giving people a lot of really furious close-quarter gameplay, and I don't think it's a bad thing to have, you know, different styles of play in the game. The people that really enjoy Rush and Conquest and these large open-scale maps, which is classic of Battlefield, are still going to have that ability, and you know, people that love the smaller frantic action and you really get some good gunplay, you know, because often on these larger maps, you know, it's all very well moving forward, and of course you will have, you know, gun action as you try to take bases or capture points and so on and so on, but this will really just emphasize that and give you a lot more of that gunplay. And as I've said recently, you know, sometimes you can actually lose a bit of your skill because those bigger games, actually there's so little of the gunplay because of the distances involved. You know, you can end up going into Team Deathmatch, practice it to get that skill back. So I think that overall it'd be a really great thing, and I think I can just imagine there'll be some really divisive gameplay in there that's going to be really exciting.
I see. Well, myself, I wouldn't call myself a traditionalist when it comes to Battlefield. I haven't really been with the series too long. I started in Bad Company 2. I'll probably get some hate for that, but anyways, but I find myself playing the Conquest maps, the larger Conquest maps, far more often than the smaller ones. And I feel that traditionally, Battlefield is more of a sandbox and I was going to say open world, but it's not really the correct term. But it's more of a sandbox shooter, as some people like to, you know, call it. And I feel like we should keep with that sort of tradition, that you know, it's been proven. It's a proven formula for how the game works. You know, Conquest has been, I believe, the oldest game type in the game series. And so those close quarters map, they're not really congruous with the Conquest game type itself, because Conquest involves a lot of movement over distances to capture bases, whereas something like Team Deathmatch, you know, it doesn't matter if it's a huge map or a small map, you got, you know, one objective, and that's kill somebody. So I think that Battlefield is more of a Conquest game, and it should keep on those maps that are really meant for Conquest. And I'm not to say that, you know, close quarters is bad or anything. You know, it definitely, like you said, it's fast and it's furious and it's fun. But I feel like they should be focusing more on the larger scale maps, the ones that focus on Conquest with vehicles, because that's the thing that I'm going to miss most about close quarters, is the vehicles. I love flying jets, I love flying helicopters, driving tanks, everything. It's all a lot of fun to me. And yes, you can go to the older maps that have been around, you know, longer, that aren't in the map pack, but you know, after a while that gets a little bit boring, and in order to get that sense of freshness, so to speak, you have to go and play the newer maps, which really don't line up with my personal gameplay style, which is, you know, more geared towards Conquest.
That's true, but I would say as well, you got to remember that there are other DLCs coming up, and you know, couple of months down the line, you are going to see you know, we're going to get some actual proper Battlefield maps coming out, so they'll be following it up. I also think that, you know, with FPS in general, it can get very repetitive, and so having something that takes it and changes from the kind of gameplay that you have now with the large maps and scaling it back down, I think that's just, you know, they're trying to keep it interesting. And I think when you look at other FPS franchises, something that can always be a problem is that they don't really implement, even when they do DLC, it's just more of the same. And I think that's something that can get kind of tedious for people, is like, okay, it is a different map, but in the gameplay ends up being the same because they haven't really altered anything. They've given you a different environment, but the space and the way the dynamic works is basically the same. So that's why I think that with this, it's actually really good because they're changing, they're taking the game but changing it into a different situation, different scale, and different dynamic, and then with the follow-up from that, they'll give people back the kind of classic play that they want. So it's kind of peaks and troughs, and I think in a really good way.
Cal, you got anything to offer up?
Yeah, I was just listening to what both you guys had to say, and just to bring a bit of diversity into this episode, I think I've got to say that I'm the middleman in all this. I'm neither totally for nor totally against the idea of the close quarters DLC, and I don't know, it's going to bring something new and exciting, and people are going to like it, and I'm sure everyone will have fun. And I know you've suggested some cons against the DLC, but I'm sure you're going to have fun just as much as the next guy. But then on like the flip side of that, on the other side of the coin, people are going to start, like it's already been mentioned, is Battlefield going too mainstream? Are they just trying to sort of compete with Call of Duty and be sort of the bigger FPS franchise? And
well, I think.
Sorry, what?
I think they're always going to do. I think they're always going to do that, aren't they? I mean, I think people always sort of say that as if it's a bad thing, but at the end of the day, isn't that what most game companies and companies do anyway? That's something I've been thinking about a lot at the moment. Is people saying how awful it is, and they're going, "Oh, EA is a company, etc., etc." But at the end of the day, they are just a company, and they're going to try and do that, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously every gaming company has their sort of business plan and what their goals and achievements are, what they're going to do within the business, because that's what it is at the end of the day. It's a business, and obviously they've got to generate money. But I think what put people off is when DICE and Battlefield sort of came out and said, I can't remember how long ago it was, but I read an article on the internet and they said that by I think it was 2014 or 2015 they will be bigger than Call of Duty. And I think for some of the maybe not so much the more die-hard fans of Battlefield, but maybe sort of, and not the new ones either, but maybe like the guys in between sort of didn't really like that concept.
I think that it's just that, like,
get what I'm saying.
But I think the problem is that people can perceive things the wrong way, and they can, it's like how people hate on big companies, but at the end of the day, they're big because they've done really well. It's just a very strange way that people tend to look at things. The better someone does, it's like you look at Minecraft. It started off really small, and people love that. People love like having a small thing and it's doing really well. But when a company is large, they end up seeing it as a kind of negative way, and it's interesting the way people perceive that. And also, people can be much more cynical, and I think it's because larger companies are more faceless. So people kind of feel a little bit more insecure about the choices and things that are happening there. But anyway, we're getting a little bit off topic. I think basically when you're coming back to the DLC, I think what it is when you say about how COD has maybe been not doing so well, possibly maybe they haven't innovated enough. Possibly they haven't. I mean, they have obviously made some big changes in the game, but at the end of the day, the companies are trying to provide stuff that will keep people interested and keep people fresh. So I think, like I said already, by changing it up a bit, that's what they're trying to do, and you can't really blame them for that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like you said, Battlefield and DICE and EA, they are making huge strides towards, progressing the game and, advancing their technologies and, the engines that they use in the games and so on and so forth. And like you said, obviously, Call of Duty is maybe lagging behind lately, and I think that was just because they haven't really, advanced their systems as such. But I think, like I said, they're being the middleman, which I think a lot of people may be. I'm not sure. There'll be loads of people saying no, or loads of people say yes. I think the majority of people may just be like me, the middleman. But the one thing I'm not really too, looking forward to about the close quarters is maybe the fact that it's just going to be like explosive central. Like, I'm not sure. With Battlefield and stuff, that's not really what I liked. What I like about the game. I'm not really a fan of spamming your grenades or rocket launchers, like your smalls or your C4s and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out when it does come out.
Yeah, my least favorite map in Battlefield 3 has to be Operation Metro, and that's because what they tried to do is they took a game type like Conquest, which is meant for wide spaces, open areas, and they try to stuff it into a rush style map. It's like Conquest is like a big box, and Rush it's like a small box. You can't put the big box in the small box and not have a problem. So that's what I'm worried about, is that it might end up being, you know, full of choke points, or have a really kind of really frictiony kind of game type where it's like there's a lot of grinding to do to get past like a certain corridor or something like that. That's the reason why I don't like Operation Metro, is because it always ends up at the B flag, just a lot of 320 spam, a lot of RPG and grenade spam, and it's not very fun gameplay to me. I like Conquest because there's a lot of different situations happening at a lot of different times. So there's a lot of different things going on, and it really proves a player how they adapt to those very situations in the game. And so I can't really see that happening in a very small map. I think that's my main issue, is that it's not going to be a variety of things happening in these small maps.
I think that basically, you know, the other thing is that what they're doing is giving people an opportunity to have different playstyles, like if you like different things, because you're saying you love the big open spaces and so on, but there's other people that don't, so they are giving people the variation in that, and I think that's where Operation Metro comes in. Now, me personally, I like both. I love the big open world play because, you know, you can move around, you can be tactical, you can think about flanking and doing that a lot, and there's the vehicles and everything like that. But then when you get the close quarter maps come up, like if we're playing Conquest and Metro comes up, it's like, oh, okay, let's get stuck in, you know, and it's a different style of play, and I think that's what will appeal to people with the DLC. You know, it's going to be a bit of a change, and it'll give people the opportunity to do those things that they don't get a chance to do very often. But if they want to go back and play the larger, you know, open maps, and they've got the car can still and things like that, they still have the opportunity to do so.
And then there's always the infamous 24/7 1,000-ticket Operation Metro Conquest servers.
Yeah, definitely.
Fun times.
Yeah. Where people pick up their best videos and go, look at me, look how much I kick ass, and it's like,
I love shit in the bag.
It's like, I have
85 kills a game.
Yeah, and naming no names, I think I've seen many people on YouTube promoting these kind of videos where you see them, funnily enough, always on Operation Metro, always on 64 players, and they're running around getting kill after kill after kill after kill, and it's like, does that happen on every game you play? I don't think so.
And they always shoot them in the back too.
Yeah. I mean, like Luton said, it is going to bring a lot of diversity to the game, and I think that is a really good thing. And from my personal point of view, anyway, like bringing, you know, I'm not going to be, you know, too cynical about it, because I do like the sort of indoor maps, but at the same point, like the explosive point that I made, I don't like them for that reason. But it's going to force players to think differently of how they approach the game. Like, you know, you're not always going to be able to do what you can on a big open world, open map, I should say. When it comes to the indoor maps, you're going to have to think more, and I think it's going to bring like an added fun factor as well, because like you said, there's not many sort of close quarter maps on Battlefield 3 at the moment. So it's going to, like you said, bring choke points and bring, you know, just skirmishes for like the whole game. Like if the game lasts, say, 30 minutes, for example, you're going to be fighting tooth and nail for every inch of the battlefield for the full game, rather than having to, you know, run around all game on Caspian border, trying to, you know, capture flags and run into like 2 enemies every 5 minutes.
There's only one thing that I think would be bad with it, and that's, you know, you can get these great games like on Metro or Grand Bazaar where you have 2 good teams and they're fighting against each other, like you say, and, you know, you have these 2, like you say, grinding against each other, trying to fight through. But there are also plenty of rounds where you end up getting completely spawn camped because the people in your team just will not move forward, they will not fight hard, they will all sit back trying to snipe or whatever, or they'll sit in a room with C4, claymores, etc. If you get a lot of that gameplay, I have to say, yeah, I agree, it's going to suck.
There's also the complete opposite, though, where you run into a very passive team that doesn't really put up a fight, and you just sort of steamroll over them, and ends up being an extremely boring spawn trap.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
also
there's nothing worse than getting like 6 games in a row where you just roll them over because you just get bored, and that's as bad as getting camped so hard.
Yeah. Well, anyways, but like, just besides just the possibility of grenade spam and explosive spam and, you know, spawn traps, there's also the issue of balancing. Look at Operation Metro. The Russian side has a clear and distinct advantage when it comes to conquest, because they can get to the Bravo flag much quicker than the Americans can. So I trust DICE that they're not going to make... the example of Operation Metro kind of makes me hesitant of these close quarters maps, because I don't want something ending up like that.
Yeah, I think you just have to play it by ear really and see. I mean, that's the other thing. A lot of people, I've actually had quite a few messages saying, why haven't you talked about the DLC yet? And the answer is simply just that, you know, I don't really think there's a lot of point speculating too heavily about it until it actually comes out. Because when it comes out, then you'll know. And that's how I always think about things when it comes to this stuff.
The good thing is as well, us PlayStation users get it a week early, so hey.
Yeah, that will be a good thing.
Let's go for that.
Bastards.
They've been paying their money under the counter.
Damn right.
But, you know, like you said, at the end of the day, we can speculate and say all that we want, but until release day, we're not going to know. So I guess that's sort of the last thing. You know, we can speculate all we want, but until we actually get boots on the ground and actually start playing on these maps and, you know, really engage in how they're set up, we can't really make a final decision and really say whether we hate them or like them. As an idea, I'm not a big fan of the close quarters map, but, you know, I think, like you said, the change is definitely going to be great for the series and for the game as a whole. And I do think I will enjoy them, you know, to some point, as long as they are done in a certain way that doesn't really make the game not as fun. Like, I don't want something like Operation Metro. I want something more fluid, a lot more exciting and fun, that moves more.
Well, the thing is, just because they're close quarters doesn't mean they're going to be linear or bottleneck, you know? If you have a very rounding map where you can continue to move around all the time, that could solve that issue. I mean, if you think about Operation Metro, yeah, it's very kind of linear in a line, but you do still have kind of the opportunity to flank depending on, you know, how the other team is playing. But, you know, if you think about other maps, and especially when you're playing Team Deathmatch or Conquest, like you say, where they do have the ability to move around, provided they've designed the maps in that way, and if they're clever, then they will have done. So, you know, hopefully they'll have that, and it won't be such a linear bottleneck all the time.
Yeah. All right. Well, any final words?
Just that.
Sorry, Luton, go ahead.
I was just going to say literally that I think people should just not judge things too harshly and maybe be a little less cynical towards the companies and just be a bit open-minded and try to see the good as well as the bad. That's my thoughts at the end.
Yeah, I think I couldn't agree more with that. That's pretty well summarised it up.
Yeah, and of course, me being the more Conquest guy, I am hesitant. And I don't really like the idea too much, but I will probably end up buying the maps and enjoying them, you know, at least somewhat, because DICE, they do make a great game and they do make a great product, and I see no reason to lose my faith in them now. And I don't think it's going to turn out to be Call of Duty. A lot of people are saying, oh, close quarters can become Call of Duty, but I don't think that's what the case is going to be. But anyways, guys, this has been a episode. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say thanks very much.
Anyways, guys, this has been episode 3 of Idiotic Insight, and today we had an awesome guest, Luton. Be sure to check out his channel down in the description if you haven't already subscribed, which I'm sure you have. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll talk to you later.
See you guys later.
Cheers.